Now, we have more problems. Headaches! You give me headaches! NFL now has a new rule system that they're trying to implement this system. So I believe, this year, excuse me. Last year, I believe it was based around the fact that they wanted to avoid issues when it came to hitting the head. And now they're trying to work on the false start issue. Now, of course, last year, this was a problem in week 1 versus where the Chiefs kept false starting. The other night, it was a problem for both sides. But only the Ratbirds kept getting called, not the Queefs. Now, I think the Ratbirds got a very warm welcoming of what the Bengals deal with when it comes to the Queefs all the time. We always deal with this bullcrap officiating when it comes to them cheating for the Queefs. Now, based on what we understand, because keep in mind the NFL is cracking down on this year, which they said they cracked down on last year, but they gave up halfway through. NFL and officiating is great. You have to be behind this line right here. Now, this line is not where the football is. You see the football over here in the line of scrimmage? No. You have to be behind the buttocks of the center. So, based on what we understand here, based on what Pat McAfee said in the show, if you have a really tall, lean center, like a 6'8" center that can really extend himself, you could actually get technically a advantage because of that. You just have to be behind the center's butt. So if you're behind the center's butt, you're fine. Now, anyone above the center's butt is automatically going to be offside, a false start / illegal formation. So, for example, you see these two heads? This head right here. All three are going to be in front of that line. Now, this is the interesting situation, okay? All night for the Ratbirds, they were doing this, okay? All night, they were legal formations, offsides, false starts, whatever. All night. Chiefs were doing it too. Now, the Chiefs never got caught on it. I know John Harbaugh was going crazy with the refs saying, hey, you got to call it on them too. First off, the Chiefs have been doing this for years, okay? They did it last year in the first game. It was a big thing. They're never going to get caught for it. They never will. Well, yes, it is a problem and it needs to be fixed. There's two faults here. First off, they're the Queens. They never get caught. Second thing, though, it's really almost impossible for a line judge / official to figure this out and call this in-game. And there's a lot of different reasons. First off, it's the angle, number one. Number two, based on what I understand, if it's close enough, I mean, we're talking about if it's even remotely close, they just don't call it. They just let it go. But, again, first game of the season, the other night, you're going to call it 5 times because you're trying to make a point. But it's literally, I feel like the NFL, when it comes to trying to make points in any capacity, is we're going to try to make a point and say that this is important. And then they're like a goldfish memory. After 3 weeks, they give up. So, Ari here says, illegal formation penalties were reviewed extensively with all 32 teams before, during, and after training camp by the officiating department. The bowing of the butt of the lineman provides an advantage in pass rush situations, and the competition committee decided it needs to be stopped. Which, again, like I said before, this is something that was looked at last year, but it's just, unless you want to get down to the nitty-gritty with technology and try to put a laser straight down and say, anyone over that laser, you're automatically penalized within seconds, you're not going to get this fixed. And this is not just a problem on offense, apparently. This is also a problem on special teams. As McAfee will say in this video, he does go ahead and talk about how on field goals, extra points, lining up correctly. We're going to see a big game this year changed because of this. And it's going to be early on because, again, like I said, by week 4, week 5, they're going to give up on this whole situation and they're not even going to care about it anymore. But early in the season, we could see a game changed by this. And it's just, it's frustrating. It's frustrating because, listen, if they caught it on both sides on Thursday night, I really wouldn't care too much. I'd be like, all right, whatever. It is what it is at the end of the day. They'll give up by week 3. But it's like, they don't make it fair. They just call it on one side, not the other. And I just know this is going to somehow impact us week 2. Yes, this whole video is because I know it's going to impact us week 2. And I know we're going to be complaining about it. I'm getting to the curve before we get to the curve here, guys. So, week 2, when they call 15 illegal formation penalties against us, just remember this is the whole situation. And they're not going to call it on the Chiefs. You already know that, They're not going to. So, it is what it is. They get rid of hip drop tackling. They're getting rid of, they're trying to get rid of this, which again, like I said, hey, if you can, you can, but I don't think you can. I really don't. I think this is just going to be a lost cause that is going to cause problems. And this is another thing that really ticks me off, okay? Is that, and this is the same thing with hip drop tackling. They say that this penalty right here and hip drop tackling, both of them, are up to the discretion of the referees. I hate that. I hate that more than anything in this life. The reason why is because when you're like, okay, this is black and white, this happened, that happened, whatever. I don't care. But when you say discretion of referees, that means depending on how the referee feels, depends on whether or not that's a penalty. And when it's black and white and you can argue and say, hey, referee, you're wrong because of this, you can't argue how they feel. You can't argue what they think. You can argue stuff black and white and say, hey, you said this guy's offsides, but look down the line, that guy's not offsides, or, whatever. But when it's like the discretion of the referee based on what he feels should be a penalty or not, that's when you open up Pandora's box and you open up an absolute can of issues. And that's the line. That's the line I don't want to go down. That is the issue. And that's how they're describing this penalty. Is from moving forward, it's going to be through the discretion of the referee. Same thing with the hip drop tackle. They might think a hip drop tackle isn't a hip drop tackle. It might be. Discretion of the referee. We already know that they kind of put that in the same direction for roughing the passer. Roughing the passer now is discretion of referee. Where it's less just cut and paste of, okay, this. Pass interference normally is black and white. You fully extended arm, PI offense. You don't look back, PI defense. Very black and white. Yes, there is also some other gray areas, but for the most part. Let's get it. Let's go and be fantastic. And also, Ratburst fans, I've seen it all over Twitter and social media. We're not changing the NFL rule that says you have to have your, what is it? As long as you have your foot in bounds, it doesn't have to fully be in bounds. Ratbirds are going crazy on social media. They want to change the NFL rule that says you can have your toes out of bounds when you catch the football as long as majority of your foot is in bounds. We're now at a point where Ratbirds lose to the Chiefs because Isaiah Likely literally steps out of bounds and can't get his feet in bounds. And now they're like, we should change that rule. You shouldn't have to have your full foot in bounds. You should at least have, if you have 50% of your foot in bounds, it should count as a catch. What? Is that what we're at this point? Well, bring out the measuring stick. Bring out the ruler. You see, 1 inch on the left is not in bounds. It's going to be a great season. It's going to be a great season, guys. I'll be live tomorrow for the game, and I'm probably going to lose my voice. Who day?